Yeah, you said you.
All right, so we're
Is this one of your gay
talking,
stories?
No, we're just sitting here talking about our coming home. We're talking about some of the symptoms that we've dealt with, and some of the issues that we've dealt with, some of the things that we've encountered. You had just told that story, which you probably need to tell again so everybody will know some of that. But what made me think of that was, I went through something very, very similar to what you're saying, in that I didn't have a doctor basically tell me I was full of crap, but their attorneys did. And so when I first got hurt, I didn't realize it was even anything big to deal with. You know what I mean? I thought I just wasn't that big a deal. But anyway, so after coming home, they started doing surgeries and blah, 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 blah. So it's like 2.5 years total. And I guess that's when all my PTSD and all that crap started. But during all that, we're trying to get treatment. We're trying to go through all this mess, and it's just terrible because, I mean, I don't know, y'all, I was having surgery on my ankle. I had surgery on my calf, and I had 4 knee surgeries. So I had 2 ankle surgeries, 4 knee surgeries, and they went in and did this thing on my calf, which basically took out part of my calf. So from the knee down on my left leg was just ruined. And of course, being allergic to every pain medicine known to mankind didn't help any either, because there was just nothing I could do. And so anyway, I'm going through all this mess and trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's just getting more and more depressing. And DBA was supposed to be there to help you. It's supposed to be there to help you get through all this stuff and get you back on your feet, because you get tore up doing this crap. You know what I mean? You're out there working in the war zone, serving your country, doing all this crap, and then you get hurt, and you're not asking for some shitbag handout. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just asking you to help me get my leg back together so I can get back to work. Right. And what people don't realize is that DBA pays out in workers' compensation claim. And there's a cap on that. And y'all know this because y'all been through it too. But it doesn't matter if you make $80,000 a year or $500,000 a year, the check's the same. Well, my bills weren't set up on a regular $80,000 a year job. You know what I mean? Right. So, I'm struggling to pay house payments. I'm struggling to keep my mortgage going. I'm struggling to put food on the table because I can't work. I can't even walk. And so then they start messing with me and start cutting my check off. So now this measly pittance that I'm getting, that's barely keeping us alive, because we've sold everything at this point. My wife's jewelry, you know what I mean? Guns, we've sold everything we can just to keep going. And we don't have anything left. We're scraping the barrel. And they said they cut my check off. And the knee doctor had I had a knee surgery while I was still receiving care for my ankle surgery. So I'd had an ankle surgery, and then, like, I don't know, a few weeks later, I don't remember now, they went in and did another knee surgery. So I'm still in a cast on my ankle because they put screws and all that stuff in the ankle. And so the knee doctor says something like, okay, you're clear to return to work. The knee guy. But I'm still wearing a cast for the ankle. I'm still in a cast, you know what I mean? And so they just cut my check off and said, well, the doctor said you can go back to work. And so I'm like, okay, but the other doctor hasn't, and I'm still wearing a cast. So it was it was a mess. It took months to get it turned back on. And so, in hindsight, we all know what they're trying to do. They're trying to put you in such a state of just financial destitution, that you'll think that $20,000 is a lot of money. So when they offer you those pennies, those crumbs at the end of this thing, you're much more likely to sell it if you're in a state of passivity. What's the word? But yeah, it was terrible. So at one point we were talking during the settlement phase, and they said there's no reason he should have PTSD. And they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, there's nothing. He was just doing security. There's nothing in that, decade of perpetual war that should indicate that he had PTSD. And so my lawyer, which was Scott Block, out of DC, he was actually on Bush's staff. But anyway, so he says, here's what I want you to do. Sit down and tell a story. One story, something you got, tell them a story. So that's what I did. So you remember a guy named Phil Gonzalez from SOC?
Mm,
Guy?
yeah, that name's familiar.
So Phil wrote a letter, a couple of different people. I think maybe even I had you write one.
Yeah, I think you did ask me for one.
Those letters to him, but then I sat down on that mail contract and I wrote one story about one incident. And I put pictures in there. And so when we got to deposition, we're sitting at the table. They're sitting on the other side of the table. And I said, yeah, we're not going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And he looks at me and he tells me to go ahead, and I slide that letter across the table. And they pick it up and they start reading it. It's 7 pages. And it's got pictures, full color pictures. And when it was over with, all she did was just close the thing back, slide it back, and said, we're ready to settle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
At that point, there was no room. You know what I mean? There was nothing. I mean, it was just, it was done.
When I don't even know where I should do it. If I should just tell the whole story or just part of it or what.
It's your story, bro.
So April 2000, was it 2007? I mean, anybody that was in Baghdad or even in Afghanistan, I'm sure it was the same for you guys, but that were in Afghanistan, we get rocketed all the time, man. We get mortared, we get rocketed. It was fucking every day, all the time. At least 1 or 2 would come in, right? Well, April 2007, I swear it was like, I don't know, man. It must have been half price sales at the fucking market for anything that went boom. Because it felt like every half hour on the hour, we would get a barrage sent at us of 20 or 30 rockets. Like it just never fucking stopped, right?
They got a lot more accurate during that time frame too.
I
When
was
that
just about to ask
increased,
if they had any accuracy, because most of the ones we
They
got
did.
were just
They
like,
did.
No,
In the beginning, they didn't,
guys.
but
Yeah,
In the beginning, they
did.
didn't.
but that that
Um,
April 07 time frame, they had started hitting some pretty
Yeah.
close to some key spots in the IZ.
I was south
So
of Kirkuk up there, and they were just shooting us with. It looked like they were using fucking swing set pipes. You know what I mean? I mean, it was just terrible.
Well,
You'd be standing
well,
out there
You
just-
guys,
come to find out, they had spotters, man. And there was a sniper team that saw the spotters that were, guiding, spotting for these rockets and these mortars being fired. Petraeus knew about it. The intel community knew about it. And Petraeus is the one that shut it down and said, no, we're not going to do anything about it. It actually got to the point, anybody that was there would probably tell you, we would have much rather have been out in the red zone, taking our chances with IEDs or VBIDs than what we would have in the green zone, because they shot so much shit at us and it was so accurate.
well, they were too, because you remember where that
Yeah.
the Blue Cafe was.
Yeah.
So I lived in the trailers right in there in that compound, because I was working IRI at that point. And so we had houses out in the red zone, and then we would rotate in, and we'd have
Mhm.
guys stay in the green zone on client watch because the client stayed in the green zone.
Yeah.
And then their office is like out where we lived. Anyhow, but so I was over there, and it was just right on the other side of the T-wall that one of the 240 Katyushas ended up hitting.
Yeah.
And I was working on my computer, and it picked me up and threw me across the wall.
Yeah. So the Katyushas, man, a lot of it was because of Soleimani. It fell under terrorist of Iranian terrorism, right?
yep.
So I remember, dude, I was supposed to fly out to go home on leave the next morning. And I had my shit that I was walking down, my clothes. Everything was packed up, but I had what little bit of clothes I had left. I was going down to drop off the laundry, right? Because we would drop our stuff off, leave it there, pick it up when we got back from leave, right? About halfway down, the way the man camp was set up, about halfway down the cord, I'd forgotten what I was even going down there for, or I'd forgotten something in my room is what it was. So I headed back to my room. When I got back to my room, I forgot what I went back to my room for. Well, everything started cooking off. You could hear them launching, and they hit the back parking area where we kept all the trucks and the vehicles. They hit back there. They hit another area.
Dragons.
Yeah, they hit dragon. Yeah, they were hitting all around. Well, then one of them had a distinct, and anytime you're like hit direct, it's got that distinct like crack to it, and it has that smell. So I knew we were hit. I dropped my shit, took off running down there. They still had rockets coming in, and we got hit again. We took a second one. Well, that second one hit one of the bunkers directly, and it funneled and it shaped all the shrapnel into the hooches, into people's rooms everywhere. So when I got down there, man, there was fucking people laid out everywhere, dude, and started kicking doors open, right? Because at this point, power's blown out. Like, we're kicking doors open, trying to pull guys out. Well, one of the doors I kicked open was Derek Wright's. He was actually a good buddy of mine, still is. I didn't realize whose room I'd kick open, because at that point, I'm just mass casualty. I'm searching for guys, right? So I grab him, pull him out, and he's laying in the position he's laying in. Everything's bad. His computer screen was open. He had been on Skype with his wife. So I grabbed his screen and I slammed his screen down real quick. I didn't know if she was still on. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew, like, this is bad, right? So I grabbed Derek. I'm starting to feel around because you can't really see anything. I don't have a headlamp on. And I just start ripping clothes off, tearing his clothes off. Well, one of the medics come in, and then he had a headlamp on, and he looks at him, and it was then you could see the back quarter of his head was missing. And he said, "Fuck him, he's dead." So that medic took off. Well, we still had incoming. I grabbed him. I opened him up, opened his airway, and he took a deep breath. So I wasn't going to leave him at that point. So what I did do was I grabbed him and I picked him up and got him outside. We got him in the back of the Bearcat, got him down to the cache. That's a whole nother story in itself, because I almost got shot by the fucking British embassy guards down there, because the cache and the British embassy shared one drop arm. So they didn't want to let us. They didn't want to let us inside. So I'm sitting out there fighting with this son of a bitch, this Brit. He's got a gun pointed straight at me about getting Americans that were just wounded into the damn cache, right? So we finally get inside, and one of the guys were sitting around. They took Derek straight in, emergency surgery, obviously. He had been hit, like a quarter of his brain came out. Both pupils were blown, typical brain injury, head injury type stuff. But I'm kind of sitting there at that point, like I slid down the wall and I'm like sitting on my butt, and one of the guys comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Animal, we need to get you cleaned up." It's like, "What are you talking about, cleaned up?" And he's like, "Dude, just go to the bathroom." So I went into the bathroom, and that's when I looked in the mirror and you could see everything that was on me, you know. I didn't know what it was. Whenever I picked Derek up and was going through everything, like shit had flown in my face and in my mouth and all that, right? And I was spitting shit out. I didn't know what it was. It had a salty taste to it, but I thought he had peed himself. Right? Natural reaction, right? Trauma. So I didn't realize what it was until after the fact, that all the shit that I was cleaning off my face and the shit that I was spitting out of my mouth was cerebral fluid and brain matter. Because when I picked Derek up and I held him close to me, his head and his face and everything were sitting right here on me. We were trying to get him out of the door until other guys could help me with him, right? So yeah, anyways, the next day comes, right? He's gone. They cancel flights or whatever. I didn't have any clothes because remember, I packed all my stuff up. So I'm sitting there, I got blood on my freaking sweatpants that I'm wearing around. Wound up having to borrow like a pair of clothes or from somebody else. Fast forward till now, right? Because we stay the fight. That's the best way we can deal with it. We handle it. Fast forward, go into our DBA claim and all that kind of stuff. And during the deposition with a lawyer, it was very similar to what you were talking about, Looney. They said, tell them one story. And I said, okay. And that's the story I told. And she cut me off. The lawyer actually cut me off. She said, I don't need to hear any more. And she had tears in her eyes. And I said, so I'm done? Like, yeah, we don't need to hear anymore. Well, when I did the, I don't know what you call it, mental health assessment with their psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever he is, went through everything, did the same thing, answered all the questions. Well, after the fact, when all the paperwork gets sent here to the house, you're reading through everything and you get to read exactly what they wrote down about you, what they diagnosed you with, and so on and so forth. And their psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever the hell he is, he wrote in the paperwork that I'd watched one too many movies. That basically the story I made up was fabricated, even though there's numerous, I mean, however many people were in that camp, anybody that was there knows what happened, you know? But yeah, that was one of the things that hit us, that apparently the stories that we tell and the events that we went through were fabricated.
Yeah. Well, and it's frustrating when you're sitting in those depositions because they're trying to like make you out to be a liar or, you know, that you're over exaggerating when, you know, meanwhile, you're just blanking out telling the story because you fucking hate telling it over and fucking over, you know, and it's just so frustrating dealing with it when I almost gave up on mine probably at least twice, I'd say, where I was just like, you know what, I don't even want to deal with it, you know, I'll figure something else out, you know, because it wasn't until after I had come home that, you know, I kind of realized it because, like you said, you know, you keep working, you power through. And so, you know, for me, you know, working over there just shy of 10 years, you know, in that environment, and then came home, which that's a whole other story. I didn't have any kind of exit plan. I just kind of woke up and went, this contract's over, and so am I. But
that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did.
I just kind of hit a
lost
breaking
every
point.
identity I think I ever had. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have
I
any
just
hobbies. I didn't have any friends. I didn't, you know. No support staff.
So
I
yeah, it
remember
wasn't
being at
until a
church and
couple
people
years.
asking me who I was. My kids were playing basketball at their church, and people were asking who I was. They knew my kids. They knew my wife. They didn't know who I was.
Well, in 2016, I had actually finally come to the conclusion, you know, holy fuck, and there's some shit here that I really need to deal with because it's impacting me, you know, on a daily basis in my personal relationships, you know, and in a major way that I really just hadn't fully been cognitive of. And I reached out to a DBA attorney, and they told me that the statute of limitations had run out. That you had, I think it was 2 years was what they had told me, in order to file a claim from, you know, injury, which would have, you know, they said would have been my last date of contracting. So, you know, and I spoke to two different lawyers on that. Two of them, I mean, both of them referrals from people we know. Not to talk bad about those lawyers and whatever, but yes, I gave up on it. And then it wasn't until right around the beginning of 2019 was when I ended up, you know, finding a firm that actually said, yeah, we can do something with you. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And then 2019 was a spiral year for me anyway. That was when I had my suicide attempt and all of that. But, you know, I got better. So, you know, But it was a definite crazy transition and dealing with all of that, but I'm glad I stuck it through. I mean, do I think I deserved more? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think every one of us, deserved more than what we ended up getting, and it's
Yeah.
it's 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 frustrating. And
Well,
I think a big part of the issue was, man, is that we were lied to. Like there was shit that we were supposed to have been taken care of. They were supposed to have helped us out with injuries and so on and so forth. Um, and they lied to us. It was like, hey, we're done with you. Go home. Go be normal.
yeah,
that was
Wait, hold on. Like
so
To
for
them,
me,
go ahead. Sorry.
no worries. For me, so I almost quit contracting. It was 2014 when the USACE contract, just ended on a dime for me and Looney. So I came home. I did the thing in upstate New York with John again, and that floated me through until I picked up my. I got you back, brother. I got
You
you
had
back.
me at New York.
Uh,
I love it when
fucking
you
Looney.
call me Big Pop.
I only did that once.
But it
And
was
that
so that's okay. Anyway, we came home, we did the New York thing.
and then I went and did this. I was the director of security for a cannabis company, writing their SOPs and checking out their infrastructure on the clinics they were proposing. So they had to let me go because Vegas was taking too long to get through the red tape. And at that point, I was already considering my options of going back to contracting. Like probably just like any of you guys, it was like the taste hadn't gotten out, and all I could think of was getting the fuck out of the U.S. and getting back over to some shithole. That's all I could think about. And the funny thing is, it's like people, you like that shit, and it's like, well, I've gotten used to it, but that's not the part I like. I like getting to talk to my bros and sitting down in chow hall and making all kinds of ruckus, and everybody just looking over, going, "Well, that looks like the fucking defensive line for the Chicago Bears." So fuck, I'm not going to mess with those guys.
It's hard to
Yeah.
explain to people that camaraderie, that brotherhood. It's
well, the
So I
overall just
so I
mundane
take
bullshit's not there. It's everything's pretty black and white. You know where you
Yeah.
stand.
and the mission's clear, the purpose is
Yeah.
clear. There's no confusing it. It's what's
very
up.
clear directives.
But I get back over to contracting, late 2015, and 4 months later, get hit with the biggest explosion that had hit Afghanistan at that point in the history of Afghanistan. And you might have even been in country at that time, Booger. It was like January 2016 in Kabul, right near the airport.
No,
Okay.
because I left out of Juba right at the end of 2013.
I remember
So,
talking to you when it happened. I remember you calling me.
but that
You called me
was
or I called you. One. We were talking right then.
Yeah. I think you were still on Facebook at the time. You hit me up, and so I said I'll talk to you offline, and
Yeah, I know
gave
we
you a call
talked right
myself.
then when when everything calmed down. I remember us talking back then.
Yeah, and I mean, what kind of like I'm sure
Because
all you guys.
wasn't Buzz with you on that?
Yeah, Buzz was with me.
I thought it was.
And then Billy Harris was there.
Yeah, I remember Billy.
that was the big V bid, like at a front gate and everything with a complex attack.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a complex attack. That was that stood out about it. It was 3,000 to 5,000 pounds of HMX right between Camelot and Camp Sullivan. That
Camp
was the
Sullivan,
namesake camp. Yep.
yeah, that was named for the special agent that got killed in the car bomb with
Sully.
me in 05.
Yep.
Yeah, Sully.
Yep. Yeah. So it cooked off between those two and left a 20-foot deep, 30-foot wide crater. That one picture you got on our intro, where it shows all of us doing in our different phases of contracting. That crater is that one. It was January 2016, and so I go home 2 weeks later. It was a planned vacation anyways. But I get home and I didn't get checked out in Afghanistan because they didn't have any resources there for us there. So I get checked out. I'm like, you know, I need to have somebody take a look under the hood, just because I need to make sure I'm going back clean, for for the rest of this contract. Well, I go get checked out at the ER, and she's like, well, I got to refer you to a neurologist. And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to get cleared to go back overseas. And she goes, well, that's not happening. And that was the first indicator that I was like, okay, I'm thinking I'm going to go back and just carry on. But the neurologist checks me out, and there's no fucking way I'm signing off on you going back over. And so that's when it started the process. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to submit a DBA claim. And at first, everything's going nice and smooth. It, it sounds like, she's real supportive. Hey, anything you need, just let us know. And so the first time I have a PTSD episode that was of anything that stuck out in anybody's mind was when I was going to see my neurologist at a follow-up. And it just so happened, the front door to the place was outside to the world. And here in Vegas, the sun is just blistering bright at like 10 a.m., shining right into my face as somebody's holding this door open. And finally I lose it. And I'm just like, close the fucking door. And, this little beta male comes in a little passive aggressive voice. He goes to the girl at the front desk. He's like, who was that yelled out? And she's like, I can't really hear her. And he goes, yeah, but it was just so rude. And I fucking snapped. I just, both hands go right on the arms of the chair, and I pop up. My wife is already grabbing me. She already knows, oh shit, now, that's it. And she's grabbing at me, and I'm like, no, fuck this motherfucker. And I'm going at him, knife hands and everything. And I'm getting ready, take him by the throat and put him right through a few walls. And some dude, just random dude, stands up and he's like, hey man, it doesn't have to be like this. And I'm looking at him, and I'm feeling murdery, just like it's time to just start stacking bodies. And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at him, and then I'm looking at Bianca, who's like, she's like tugging at my arm, and I'm just like, and the only, and you'd think at this point, DBA was like, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist. No, they call me up and berate me and say, well, if you have another incident like that, you can't go back to that neurologist's office. And I was just like, okay, I'll try not to do that again. And she just, her sticking point was she was not going to authorize me to see a psychiatrist. That was it. Neuropsychologist, fine. But a psychiatrist, nope, out of the question. And so at that point, that's why I contacted John, and you had referred me to Scott Block, right?
Yeah.
So I contacted him, and he goes, okay, yeah, we can take care of this, blah, blah, blah. As soon as I did that, man, she cut me off. Like you were talking about, like cut you off financially, cut you off medically. And dude, I was just like you, I was barely hanging on by a thread with the meager,
I remember
leftovers
that, man. I remember I remember that the whole damn thing. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And it's hard because, the vast majority of people, unless you've been in close proximity to a very large explosion, you just have no idea how violent that is. Like people see it in a movie and all of that. I was watching a movie with my girlfriend, and an explosion happened, and the movie actually did like the tinnitus ring to it. And I laughed, and I was like, welcome to the rest of your life. My girlfriend paused the movie, and she goes, wait, you hear that all the time? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she goes, oh my God, she's like, I'd kill myself. And I laughed, and I was like, you just kind of get used to it. I was like, sometimes you're like extra aware of it, but most of the time you don't even notice.
I don't even notice it's there until I think about it.
Yeah, I start getting concerned if I don't notice it.
Yeah, but so when you're trying to describe these situations, like to these lawyers and all of that, and they're like, oh, you were in an explosion, okay, like you didn't lose an arm or anything, so how bad could it be? Different things of that nature. And it's like they should have to go out like on a blast range and just feel that hit their body, or hear that sound of an incoming round, when you can just hear that, and you're like, oh shit, that was going to be close. Yeah.
So I want to get back into that for a minute, Dale. You said that right about the time you contacted Scott, they cut everything off. What happened with that?
Well, we, she basically tried to cite that because I'd sought out Social Security disability, even though I got turned down for it. She tried to cite that as the reason. And Scott had told me, look, they can literally write Mary had a little lamb in their reason column and they'll cut you off. And then you basically got to fight for it in an arbitration. And I'm like, okay, well, how soon can we get that? And he's like, well, it takes a couple months. So from I think it was September of 2016 to February of 2017, I was cut completely off of medical, finances, everything. And
And not
when it
cleared
got
to work.
right, and even worse, when it got turned back on, what they have to do is like if the arbitrator feels like it should be turned back on, then they got to back pay during that whole time. Well, she had somehow got the motion granted for them to factor in Social Security disability and discount them that, even though I wasn't collecting Social Security disability. And so they basically back paid me at a lesser rate and had it retroacted to when I started DBA. So there was minus that amount too. And then they continued on at a lesser payment for the rest of the time until we were settling. And even worse, when I sat down to settle, I'd gotten pretty much the kind of deal where Scott Block was like, this is about as far as we're going to be able to take them. I've gotten the indication that they're not going any further. And I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I say fuck you and what you're offering? I'm like, well, then what they can do is they can stop all your payments. Like right now, you're getting paid until they settle, but they can stop that, and then you'll have to wait for the judge, and that'll take 2 years. And I'm like, so I'll be without anything for the next 2 years. And they're like, yeah. And he goes, and the thing is, the district we're in out here falls under San Francisco, and that judge hates contractors. She thinks you're all mercenaries, and she has no love for you at all. And I'm like, so I'll basically be screwed. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to make a decision, but if you want my honest input as your attorney, yeah, you'll be screwed. This is probably about the best deal you're going to get. And even if she does find in favor of you, it probably wouldn't be better than the deal you're currently being offered. So yeah, they work these tactics, man. And for me,
they're hoping that they can put you into a box, or they're hoping that you'll finally just shoot your fucking self. Then they can get out doing anybody anything.
Yeah, it's like they know they're already on the hook, so they're just going to make it as painful as possible to try and pay as little as possible.
Well, you know what
like
pissed me off the most?
If they paint you into a corner and get you into a position of compromise, then they can offer you less, and you'll be eager to take it.
Correct.
This is the sick thing though, is that there's two different categories of DBA. There's the DBA that falls under a active war injury, which was what mine fell under, and I don't know if it did for you other guys. But and then there's DBA, kind of almost like a workers' comp insurance, like a guy who tore a pec doing weightlifting,
Right.
he can still get DBA for it while he's recovering for his injuries and shit. Well, that one, the government only reimburses at a flat rate. But for the active war injuries, the government actually reimburses them plus 10%. So they not only don't come out losing anything, they come out gaining from the government. And they will fucking chop you down, make you question your whole character and existence, and call you all fucking kinds of names. I mean, I can't believe the shit that came out of this adjuster's mouth. I was like, man, I don't know how you fucking go to sleep, let alone call yourself a Christian woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So when I first came home, I was kind of in the same boat. Like PTSD is bullshit, yada yada yada. Like, well, then little by little, as you're sitting here, it's almost as though you have to dumb yourself down just to be able to fit into society. At least that's how I felt.
Dumb or numb
you know,
yourself.
yeah, and there would be days that I would go, I wouldn't sleep for a couple days at a time, 2 or 3 days at a time. So I'd go down to the VA and try to get help, something to put me to sleep. Like I was literally going fucking insane. And I'd gone down there. This was right after, not when the Muslim fucking terrorist shot up Fort Hood, but it was when that soldier had just come back and he tried to get help for PTSD, and they told him that
Yeah.
he was faking it, and
Yeah.
he went in there and fucking killed everybody.
Yep.
So this was literally a week after that happened. I'd gone down there and I told them, I said, look, I need help, like I haven't slept. And they said, okay, we're going to call psych down here. So they called a psych doc down there, and I'm sitting there and I'm having a conversation with this psych doctor. And I started to feel like almost like, are you a fucking med student type attitude? Like that's, what I was getting. Like, you're not a legit doctor. Well, no, I just
Doogie
graduated and
Howser.
this, that, and yeah, like she had literally just graduated, and I was like, so why are you here? And she said, well, our actual doctor is at home, and if I need them, I call them, and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay. So I go through the whole spiel of what's going on and everything. I told her, look, I haven't slept in 2 days at this point, and I said, look, I need something to go to sleep. Like I got to go to sleep. And she was like, well, what do you want me to do for you? There's nothing I can do. And I said, look, I got a Glock in my truck. So you're going to tell me right now that if I go out to my truck, I get my Glock, I come back in here and I kill all you motherfuckers, that this is my fault? When I'm sitting here begging you to help me, that's going to be my fault? Her response, I shit you not, man. She looks at me and she goes, well, sir, I'm very sorry that you feel that way, but unfortunately, there's nothing I can do right now. I got up and just fucking walked out. I was like, I don't even know what to do. I have nothing more to say. Like, how do you look at somebody asking, like a combat vet, especially after that had just happened on another military base, and you look at them and you basically tell them go fuck themselves? Like, there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah.
Sleep
So
deprivation is, I mean, when I was at my worst, right before I had my suicide attempt, I was sleeping probably on average about an hour and a half, every night. And that had gone on at that point, hell, probably close to a year, fairly consistent, of about an hour and a half. And, I was fried. I mean, it'll drive you completely insane, I guess in some weird way, thankfully I decided to take it out on myself, versus, other people. But, I mean, obviously, with booze that exacerbates things and whatnot. But, I definitely wasn't in my right mind, even, had I taken alcohol out of that situation, just
Yeah.
because of all that sleep deprivation. Your body needs it. The people that go, oh, I don't need that much sleep, they're kind of fooling themselves. You can get by, but your body does need that regenerative time.
I
Oh,
told
yeah.
someone that very thing the other day. I said, people say, oh, I don't need that 8 hours sleep. I only need 5 hours. I only need 6 hours. No, you need 8 hours. You may have gotten used to getting 5 hours or used to getting 6 hours. You may have adapted to that schedule, but your body really needs that regenerative time. You know what I mean?
no.
I mean, we all been without sleep. We've all, y'all know what I'm saying. I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But I remember coming home, and I remember, that's the thing most people don't know about contracting, is that it's a perpetual state of warfare.
Hmm.
It's constant. You don't deploy once. You don't deploy twice. I don't know how many damn deployments I got.
You essentially live over there.
That is the life. You're over there 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, and then you come home for 30, 60 days, whatever. Most of the time we were doing 90-30s, something in that neighborhood. But You know, I remember my first year at BW was, you know, they were paying us a retainer so we didn't jump ship after training. And so we were in Chesapeake, me and Max and a bunch of us, we were in Chesapeake in the hotel for months, dude. Maybe two,
You
three
guys were
months.
right around the corner from me. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that.
And then when I deployed the first time, you know how it was. Everybody was so short of medics. It's like, hey man,
Yeah.
can you stay another tour? Can you stay another tour?
Oh, they'd start offering daily bonuses or
And that's the
monthly
thing is, like,
bonuses.
I've had contracts where they're like, well, we'll buy back your leave at 80% if you stay another time. So you'll get basically get another month's pay, just boom. You know what I mean? Like, that's hard to say no to.
I
So
named
my
my
first year with
ex-wife's boobs
BW,
August and September because of retention bonuses.
my first year with BW, I was going 12 months.
Yep.
You know, I spent three in the hotel, I think 9 months on ground, something like that. Might have been 10 and 2. I don't really remember exactly, but you know, so my point with that is it's your life. And I remember back in the day, people would tell me, like, friends would be like, you're gonna get killed. Like, that's crazy. And I thought it was kind of weird for somebody to say that, because what's crazy about it? I mean, all we're doing is riding around in war zones with automatic weapons and getting in a gun.
That was fucking
What's
normal,
so strange
bro.
about
Like,
that? Like, that's just weird.
you know what?
You say that. Are you a communist? What do you mean?
Not,
I mean, like,
not to,
you know, in
yeah,
my
not.
mind, that was just what we did. It wasn't that strange to me. And I found it odd that people thought it was. To me, sitting behind a cubicle would be death. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
know what? You know what was hard for me? Like, it's funny you say that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
but I'm going to
so
anyway.
yeah, I'm going to anyway. And P.S. Go fuck yourself.
With all due respect,
With all due respect, it's in the Geneva Convention.
I'm gonna do it organically.
Yeah.
No. To go off exactly what you're saying though, what was weird, dude? Do you remember going to like the PX or the shop ed over there?
Oh yeah.
You had like 3 options, right?
Mhm.
And then coming home and trying to go to a grocery store,
Oh God.
Well,
dude.
you know, for me, I thought it was funny. So y'all know this. I mean, I know Dale knows this, but I finished my master's degree while I was in Afghanistan the last time. And I did my master's degree in psychology, and I did my, anyway, doesn't matter. Religion was my minor's undergrad stuff. But when I came home and I'm going to do this DBA stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't go back to contracting. Maybe I'll just finish my PhD, and maybe I'll get a job doing therapy. You know, maybe I'll help people. That was always my escape plan. You know what I mean? Either teaching or something like that. So I haven't yet noticed that I've got PTSD, because PTSD to me at this point was just simply academic. I didn't understand it. I made fun of people that said they had PTSD. I remember saying to my buddies, if we don't have it, nobody's fucking got it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how you get PTSD after all the shit we saw, and it ain't hit me. Shouldn't
Had
it
it
have hit
began
all.
me?
manifesting
You
at
know?
all and you were
No,
ignoring it?
nope, don't recall a thing until I came home.
Yeah.
And
That was yep.
when I stopped, I guess when I stopped that influx, that constant influx, that it was like, where'd all the sensory overload go to? You know what I mean? It's like when everything went to a standstill, and it was like, at least for me, it was like, I don't know who I am. We had moved to a different town while I was gone. I didn't know anybody where we lived, not a single person. I didn't have any friends. I had no support group. Everybody that I was friends with was in combat zones. They were working. I
You
didn't
still
have
don't have
any
friends.
hobbies because I'd spent the last decade doing nothing but running around the world for my rich uncle. So now I got no hobbies. I got no support staff. You know what I mean? And so when I came home, you know what it was like in Kabul. I mean, it was a frat house with weapons. I mean,
Yeah.
You ran a mission, you worked out, you eat chow, and then you drink till you pass out. You don't just have a couple of beers with the boys. You drink till you pass out.
Party like rock stars.
I come home thinking I'm normal, thinking this is how everybody acts. This is what normal is. Somebody blows the horn at you at a fucking red light, you get out and you beat the shit out of them at the stoplight. I mean, that's what people do.
Well,
right?
that is normal for you.
You know, they fuck up your order at the drive-through, you threaten to go in there and kill them. I mean,
Yeah, if there's too much traffic to where you're going, you just pop the curb and counterflow.
yeah, this is
Counterflow,
proportionate responses, right? This is what
Right.
other people do. This is normal.
That's normal, right?
Speaking of fast food, dude, I fucking rifled a hamburger back at him.
So,
Like, would you eat this fucking shit? And they're like, well, I'm sorry. Oh no, you're gonna be fucking, you know.
so for me, like
Dick.
the longer I was at home, the worse it got. And the worse it got, the more I drank. And the more I drank, the worse it got. And so I was in this sort of self-induced cycle. You know what I mean? Where I didn't know how to deal with anything. I didn't get into coping mechanisms. I thought I was losing my fucking mind, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm going to these
Whoa.
shrinks and I'm going to all this crap and they keep giving me pills and then this pill's got a side effect, so take this pill and then that one gives you a side effect. Now you got this pill and now I'm 30, 35, whatever, 40 years old, standing in the mirror and looking at it. And, man, I'm thinking I'm losing my mind. You know, I remember sitting in a bathtub one day and my wife's like, I'm just like, I can't explain it. I literally think I'm going crazy. I don't know how to explain it. Like I'm losing my mind. Like I'm freaking hallucinating shit. Like I don't understand what reality is right now. I mean, I was having a damn breakdown. And so I'm sitting in this room with this shrink. And he's like, yeah, I know what you're going through. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it was doing counseling with my soon to be second wife, and we were, sitting there talking with the therapist, and she wanted to know, a little bit about me and, my background. And so, and, it led down through her questioning and everything to, September 19th, 2005, when we got hit with the VBID complex attack up in Mosul. And, and I recounted the story to her and all of that, and I kind of finished up. And she looks at me and she goes, do you know you have PTSD? And I went, what are you talking about? And she goes, everything that you had been, talking about, all of your mannerisms, expression, she said, 100% normal. And then she said, when you got to the point of recounting that story, it became a very clinical thing and you were extremely monotone. She was like, you completely detached yourself from it 100%, while you were telling that to me. And I was like, I didn't even realize it. And so that was kind of, where I came to the conclusion. So, I mean, that was almost 3 years later down the road, and I guess for me, it was a little bit different than you because I lived right there in Chesapeake. So, I had friends that were instructors in Moyock, and all of that. So I was still, even after I had quit contract, I'm still going out and partying like I was. Didn't have a job and I'm burning through my savings like it was my fucking job. But but I was still living that lifestyle, like you said, because that was normal. That was what I did. I'd be gone 8 to 9 months out of the year. And the little bit that I was home, I was off partying with my friends every chance we could, and and so that was my realization was, just recounting, that specific day. And it's funny because you were talking about somebody was mentioning the pictures, with to the attorneys. And so when I had to, do all of my report and all that shit to turn in and they wanted pictures, One of the pictures that I presented in that file was EP holding up a picture of the vehicle when he was testifying to Congress. I'm like, yeah, it was that right there, you know. So
Yeah.
It's hard, you know, it's hard to one, it's hard to really, I don't know, it's like for me, PTSD wasn't, I don't know, like what I always thought PTSD was these flashbacks. You know, that's what everybody always talked about was these flashbacks. And I don't ever recall having this flashback. I know I've had some sort of detached moments where they were really intense and it really started to feel real, but it wasn't like I was disillusioned and I was wandering around grasping at inanimate objects that were floating or something. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't understand what people mean when they say that. Maybe they do mean what I'm talking about. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe, but for me,
that's
like, I didn't get that. You know, for me, it was I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know. I went from being a rock star to now
To
being
nobody.
nobody, and not having any identity, not having any job. Now I'm failing as a parent. I'm failing as a husband. I'm failing at everything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just like you lose
Oh
your
yeah.
entire identity, and then they
Well,
pack
even
you in
worse.
a corner and just basically throw their finger at you and tell you to fuck off. You know, and this is
well, and
a
it's
conversation I had with someone the other day, and I said, I don't know if it was you guys, I don't remember who, but the thing about it is when you see all these videos, you see these movies, and you see all these cool things, they sell you on all this cool shit.
Mhm.
You're gonna get to do this, you're gonna get to go here, blah 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 blah, macho. They don't tell you all the shit they're gonna break.
Mhm.
yeah.
They don't tell you how
Yeah.
to destroy your body and break your mind. You know,
Well, I think
I mean, look at the suicide rate.
One of the
People
things
like
that
this, man. Look at the freaking suicide rate. And the real numbers are
so
much higher than 22 a day. It's much,
oh
much
yeah.
that
higher
was
than that.
based off of
That's
Vietnam
what I'm
veteran
saying.
statistics. It's
The numbers are way higher than that, I believe.
Higher. Yep. They are. Well,
I mean,
the VA got caught lying about that too.
there's four of
Mm.
us, and I know 75% of us have been there.
yeah.
I first time I was there was you know I'd already been having the migraines. You know those fucking sucked. And you know you can't ever accurately describe a migraine to somebody who has never had a migraine. You know
No, it's like PTSD. They think you're full of shit.
and it's so hard to really like. Again, it's like no, there's having a headache, and I've had headaches. But the first time I started having migraines, it was actually while I was contracting, and it was because I got knocked in the head a few times when I was in the Navy. But you know, I just for a day or two, I could take some, you know, I could take some Furacet, and you know, I'd be good for the whole day just off of one Furacet. After I started having these migraines from the blast, though, I was using Furacet and I was popping them like they were goddamn Tums. And I was in, you know, and I had acid reflux, you know, I was just like fucking taking them by handfuls at this point just to fucking numb the pain. But when I first started getting cluster migraines, I'd never had that until it was like the summer of 2016. That was the first time I got a cluster migraine. And I sat there for probably 2 solid minutes with my gun in my mouth, just thinking how to how to justify it that I was going to be leaving my brain matter for my wife and kids to see and clean up. And I think that's the only thing that stopped me from squeezing that trigger any further because I couldn't think of anything else that was going to solve those fucking migraines because I mean, migraines were bad enough, but cluster migraines, I'm like, no, fuck this, I'm punching out. I can't do this. Um, but that did, you know, that was something I was able to kind of get over, and deal with, in that, okay, I got to suck it up for them. I got to see if I can get past cluster migraines. I got to see if I can take a look at some of their options. And now people talk about different things like psychedelics and ayahuasca therapies and other ceremonies. And there's resources out there, hyperbaric therapy. Not every one of them works. I mean, but something's going to work. Unfortunately, I deal with cluster migraines maybe twice a year now. But what really fucking fucked me up. So we're doing another thing, and I kind of told you this, animal, when I was talking to you about Derek, about the Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorism Fund. And so we discovered that ours is linked to a very well-known country. I'll leave it out of the mix right now, but it's the same one that was responsible for Derek's, and you know where I'm going with all this. The same people. And one of the things that the attorneys asked. What's that?
Is there some reason we're not saying
it? Mostly my family's protection.
Okay.
Because I don't give a fuck about those punk ass motherfuckers.
No, that's what I was sitting here thinking. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think any of us give a fuck about it, but I think it's more about protecting the family.
Yeah. So that said, one of the things that the attorneys were asking for, because the judge needed to see it, was they wanted to know how the blast event affected, my family members. And they also wanted to know how it affected our relationship. Now, what hit me first was the realization that I'd never bothered to ask any of my family how the blast affected them, like what was running through their minds, how did they feel, those kinds of things. And then I had never bothered during the entirety of this time to think about how it affected our relationships. And so this was the spring, I want to say, of 2020, maybe even 2021, but I think it was spring of 2020 is when this was asked for. So I'm reading these because I got to transcribe them into an email to get to my attorney, so there's all like one format instead of like someone who wrote something in pencil here and somebody who typed something out there. I just didn't want it to. I just wanted to put it one nice, tidy little email, one font, one format, and get it out to them. I'm typing these things and I'm reading about the kind of person I'd become to everybody, to my wife, to my daughters. The fear my dad had that if it wasn't the medication, it was going to be me who took me off this planet. And I never felt so low as a person as I had that particular week. And I'm sitting in my truck driving out to Red Rock, fucking just sobbing like a baby. And I remember a promise I'd made to one guy. I said I would at least try to call 3 people if I ever felt like I needed to end it all. So I reached out to him, and he picked up the phone, and I told him everything that was going on. I was just having a come to God moment, and he says, "Okay, I hear everything you're saying, man, and it's nothing any of us haven't been through. So I'm going to tell you this one thing that maybe gets your attention right now." And I'm like, "Oh, good luck." And he says, "The guilt monster is a liar." And I sat there for a moment, and I said, "Okay." And he goes, I said, "What's the?" And he goes, "The lie is that you think you're still that person, and what they're recounting is who you were." He goes, "Are you telling me that you haven't gone through any therapy?" I said, "Fuck no, I got a whole team at the VA." He goes, "Okay, and you're still going to your therapy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have to." He goes, "Okay, don't you think you've changed, from who you were that they're talking about to where you are now?" And I said, I hope so." And he goes, "Okay, all right." then understand that you're being lied to. You're lying to yourself. You're thinking, you're reading about history all in 1 week. He's like, I don't even know why they asked you guys to do it without, having the attorneys direct line them, because you are reading all your family members last, 4 years of hell. And I was like, okay. But I'll tell you this, man, it's not the kind of thing I'd wish on anybody. And I think that's what makes all of us so upset when we hear some attorney for some big conglomerate insurance company telling you that you're making it up, that you've watched too many war movies, that nobody could have gone through this. Nobody could have felt like that just from the, I mean, come on, you got some headaches and maybe lost a few nights of sleep. That's how they try to sum it up. And that's the kind of fury when you tap into somebody. I mean, all of us, all of us were trained to think outside of the box to get a mission done, whatever it took to get the mission done. And you learn to think outside of the box. And you're dumbfounded. You're looking at this person. I mean, I looked at this person. I'm like, I was paid by the government to erase people from the planet, and how to do it very intelligently. And you're going to fuck with this particular person who's in a state of being, like, questioning everything and saying, damn near saying, fuck it, I'm willing to kill myself to remove myself from the equation. And you're going to fuck with that person? And I swear, I thought attorneys were pretty bad, but these insurance adjusters, man,
Oh, they're terrible. They are
they
absolutely atrocious.
they are
They
true
are
spawns of Satan.
evil, just evil.
Yeah.
I don't know how you
That
do a
was a
job like that. I
that was
really
a conversation my girlfriend and I had, during my whole thing. And I was like, what kind of person does this? Like, I get it, it's an insurance company and their job is to retain the money. But I said, the actual person doing this shit, saying the shit that they're saying to me, I said, how the fuck do they sleep at night? Like, I couldn't
I
do it as
called
a
him.
to think I was a good human being. And I like to think I am a good human being,
I
you
called
know.
him. I called him and asked him that very thing. I did, man. I broke down with one of them on the telephone. I mean, I was at my absolute end, and I poured it out to them. I was like, you guys just see a piece of paper and a number, but you don't realize that there are people almost dying on the other end of this. You know what I mean? Like, you just read a fucking box and check it, and that's people's lives. Like, you don't realize how bad that is. You were talking about Dale, that's, man, that's because mine was always, I was never going to be my father. Never was. I was never going to leave my children. I was never going to do anything to abandon them or hurt them. I was never going to be that guy. And damn it if I didn't almost get there. You know what I mean? And my kids, man, that's the hard part, is knowing some of the things that they had to endure to see. That's where my biggest shame is, and I'll never get rid of that as long as I live.
It's one of the things that I'm kind of getting to the point of confronting. It's not like I had abandoned my kids, but we divorced when I was still the height of my contracting, really. And by 2009 is when she left. So shit, I was still doing it for a long time after that. I mean, I was still in Iraq at that point. And so then, my visitation with the kids and everything, but so I never really thought about how all of the changes that happened with me, through the PTSD and everything had affected, my family members. And I'd actually just recently reached out to my sister and I was like, hey, I'm kind of curious and how I've changed, with PTSD and how that's impacted us. she's like, yeah, I'd rather not do this on text. You want to do it face to face? And I'm like, shit, I'm about to get hammered now, but it was, I guess I just kind of cocooned up to such a point that, outside of my general necessities and putting on the front of a normal functional human being, I couldn't really think of anything else at the time. It was okay, smile, laugh at these jokes, go, do these things, seem social, make sure you eat, fuck, I spent 3 days, better take a shower, it was shit like that because it was such a struggle just to get out of bed and just repeat it every fucking day. It was, you had said like a loss of a loss of identity. And I think in the group chat, Superman had mentioned, is it a loss of identity or is it a loss of purpose?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a conglomeration of the two, at least it was for me, and that was the hardest part, I think. And, like you said, you thought you were going crazy, and I knew something was different. I just couldn't figure it out. And it just really it zapped me.
One of my good friends is he's a physician, and I know that he and I talked extensively on this subject because he does hormone replacement therapy and things of this nature as well in his expertise in medical practice. And so he and I had many conversations on this topic, but he pretty much developed this thing he calls his Apex Predator program. And it's basically designed around people, that alpha male, top of the food chain kind of thing, And his theory, in the broad strokes, as simple as I can try and make it, is that guys like us were switched on all the time. You're always in this, by comparison to the rest of the herd is what I'm referring to. We don't have downtime. We only had uptime, and there was degrees of that. You know what I mean? You never truly relaxed. Now, you may go to a beach in Mexico and turn your phone off for a week and that sort of thing, but how many times could we ever truly stop anything? You know what I mean? You were always at a heightened state. And then inside of that, it was even more focused, because then when you got a showtime and you're doing a pre-brief, you know what I mean, and you're getting everything in order, you're starting to get ramped up a little bit. And then you're putting all your gear and everything. Now you're getting a little more ramped up. And then you're on
the music starts playing.
You're on the X, you know what I mean? You're out there running. And everything's on a fucking 12, you know what I mean? And then you come back and you try to go back down to an 8. And then, you know what I mean? And the next morning you're back up to a fucking 12. So all day long you're dumping chemicals. You know what I mean? You're dumping fucking chemicals all day long. And we burn through it faster than most people. This was the theory he presented to me. And keeping on with what you're saying, that sort of leads into that, because we didn't just lose identity, we lost purpose, but we also went from that constant state of heightened sensitivity, from being the head, you know what I mean, the lion, if you will, you know what I mean, just ready for something nonstop. You never walked into a room and felt comfortable. You walk in, you're scanning exits, you're looking at threats, you're already sizing up everything. You're just turned on all the fucking time. And to go from that to having to stand in line at fucking Walmart and not be sitting there just fucking, I've had people like, why do you have 2 guns? I'm like, because the first one might fail. But you realize you have 2 guns. And I'm like, yeah, everybody? And they're like, no. You know what I mean? How many knives do you have? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have a fucking grenade? Where in the grocery store?
Never know when you should break contact.
I guess it's just smoke. I got 1 bang and 1 smoke. Come on. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you go from a heightened state of constantly being on the hunt for decades.
So,
Yeah.
Or at least,
they say that we're
a
not
decade. You
supposed
know what I mean?
to, supposed to sustain those levels, but if you think about it, though, it's such a primal. That's primitively that's the feeling that we would have been in constantly then. In a day to day life. You know what I mean?
So
So is it just
that
because that's become the norm, and then you're just popped out of that environment that's where it's short wires in there
Well,
somewhere, or
I think
short
it goes
circuit
well,
back
something?
to kind of what I was saying earlier. I think it goes back to you know, to go from that heightened state of just constant sensory overload. You know what I mean? There's sounds, there's images, there's threats, there's adrenaline. You're getting dumped chemicals all the time. So you're going from this, being stuck at a supermax prison in Gen Pop. You know what I mean? The first day you get there, what would you know what I mean? You'd be fucking on a 12. We
Mm,
were on a 12 all day, every day. You know what I
sure.
mean? And it went up and down, and you're dumping these chemicals, and so all that shit's fucking with you, and you get adapted to it
Mm.
but
because
my
I
question.
felt like I
you've been
thrived
So
doing it for a
early.
fucking
Yeah.
decade. You know what I
You
mean? And now
did.
you come home and you're sitting on the couch, and you're like, all right, and everybody's like, why are you, you know, why do you have so many guns all over the house? Why is there a gun in the couch? And it's like, because why do you have a 12-inch can on a fucking side piece on a nightstand? Well, it'd be rude to fucking wake up everybody if you got to deal with a burglar. You know what I mean? Like, you make like that makes sense to me, and other
Right.
people think you're crazy because but you're putting a plan in place because that's what you've done to go from one to the other. It's now it's like you lost your identity, you lost your purpose. I didn't know who I was,
Well,
I didn't know what I was going to do. And now I think I'm losing my fucking mind because everybody's telling me I'm going nuts. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you so fucking jumpy?
right.
Why are
Or
you why are you swerving
even
in the middle
better,
lane for a bag of trash in the edge of the road? You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like our work environment, us talking. I mean, how we're talking right now is how we always talk. And people would say, well, that's like being in a locker room, and like that's our work environment. Like that's how we talk to each other, even on the job. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, well, you can't talk like that back here at home, because that'll get you to
why
HR
not?
and fired.
Well, why not? That exactly right there. Do you
I
like?
can't say much because I remember being told several times that even when I was overseas that I was going to get fired for some of the shit I said. So I don't think I have a very good gauge for that.
Yeah, but
you
here's my whole thing on it, which plays into exactly. So for the longest time, you join the military, whatever. You go from nothing to military. You go to boot camp, you get trained up, you go to sniper school, ranger school, SF, SEAL teams, wherever it is that you go. You continue to get trained to these higher levels, and there's higher expectations expected of you
Mm,
because you're taught these responsibilities. Okay, now it's not about me anymore. It's about the guy to the left and to the right of me. Because if I don't do my job, never mind if I'm going to get killed. But now I'm going to get Looney killed. I'm going to get Soups killed. I'm going to get Booger killed. Right? So
mm,
we stay at that level. Some of us go on to train at higher levels with other guys that are or more like-minded that want to go to that same higher level with us. So now you have the four of us separating ourselves to an even higher level of expectations. We cross over, we go into the civilian side. Now, when we're on the civilian side and we're contracting, the only guys that we're really even working with anymore are the same guys that come from those special operations background, that come from ground branch, that come from GRS, that are Rangers, SEALs, Delta, pararescue. These are the best fucking war fighters the world has ever known. And you are expected to perform at that level every day of your life, or you will no longer be there. Bottom line. So, we get to training at that level. We train our bodies at that level. We train our minds at that level, and that's what's expected of us, and that's what we expect of ourselves. And at the end of the day, when we're done and they send us home for whatever reason, maybe we resign, maybe you're fired, maybe it's an injury, and we come home and we have to essentially we get released back into the wild, if you will. It's like taking a lion or taking an apex predator and putting it back into a pen full of sheep. And I hate using that example because it's been used so much, but I don't think people really understand the reasoning behind it. Now, whenever we're released amongst the sheep never worry about anything because it's the herder that's going to come feed them. It's going to come water them. It's going to come do everything for them and keep them safe. Well, we never had that. We were that.
Right.
So when we go back amongst them and we're staying locked down and we're staying ready and we're protecting our family and we're walking down the road and I constantly keep my wife and my kids to my inside at all times. I get questioned on that kind of stuff. Well, why are you doing that? Well, to us, it makes perfect sense. Why? Because I'm going to protect my wife. I'm going to protect my sons. I'm going to protect my children. I'm going to keep them out of harm's way to the best of my ability. Well, that seems stupid. Well, does it? So over time, what I've seen, and I see it over and over and over again with these school shootings and everything else. To us, to cure the school shootings, to us, I think it would be a simple concept.
Yeah.
To everybody else, they tell us, no, that's out of control. You're going psycho, whatever the case may be. Well, is it really? I mean, is it really us? Because we're trained to think at these higher levels and we're trained to be at these higher expectations. Whereas we come back to civilian society, and civilian society lives by the old, oh, that's okay. No, no, you can do it next time. Or no, you're not too fat. You can't walk up a flight of steps without feeling like you're going to have a fucking heart attack. But no, you're just
school shooting. They got that on lockdown. They're putting resource officers on that.
Yeah. There was just one right now. My
proficient.
wife just sent it to me. Allen, Texas. There was a mass shooting right now in Allen, Texas. She just sent it to me. There's another one.
Jeez.
I don't know
So-
how it is everywhere, but I know I don't want to gig too much
Yeah.
on cops, man, but I'll just say this, in Georgia,
I'll tell you straight
I think
up.
it's like 10 weeks. I think it's 10 weeks, the academy in Georgia, to be a police officer. I think
That's
you go to
fucking
school
ridiculous.
for 10 weeks from start to finish. 10 weeks. 10 weeks.
Oh,
10-year-old kid can walk in at 10 weeks. He'll be handed a weapon and given. Now, dude,
I'm sure there's
we
got to
tried
be
to
like
make
some
we tried to
FTO
make fucking
time and shit like
soldiers out of
that.
Afghans.
it doesn't matter. You
We
guys
tried to
just
make
open a
soldiers
fucking
out
worm
of
with me.
Afghans.
You guys just open a
And all
damn
we
can of
had-
worms with me.
All the fuck we had at the end of that program was a bunch of fucking monkeys with boots on their feet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, they're still flinging poo at each other. You know what I'm saying? But they got U.S.
Yeah.
boots on their feet. You
They're
can't.
spending
so-
big money rehabbing the base here because of all the Afghan refugees. They trashed it.
Man, fucking savages, bro.
So
You
go. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not even going to start on that one. I'll save that one for next time.
Well,
Getting
Yeah.
started on being a cop,
that's a
dude.
podcast by itself.
We'll
Right.
start.
Yeah, that's
We'll start wrapping it up a little bit because I think we're about to hit an hour and a half. But, I did want to say that, it's tough sometimes to admit your own shortcomings and your own failures. You know what I mean? It's tough to look back and see the damage that you've done, and some of that's a hard pill to swallow. But I appreciate everybody, putting it out there anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
being special needs isn't such a bad thing.
I've been on that bus my entire life, friend.
Right?
So we made it into a profession.
Yes.
Yes.
Chief retard.
I thought that
Yeah.
was my job.
Hey,
Anybody
just
got
remember,
anything else?
just remember, his beard isn't the only thing thick on him.
Hey, well, it's damn sure not my waist. That's all everybody keeps
Thick
telling me.
glutes.
Hey, have you got any hits on that grinder profile we made for him, Animal?
Oh, no. Are we going to merge these two accounts?
By the way, me and Superman put your phone number down, your cell phone number is our gamer tag on Xbox. So now whenever we shit on these kids, they're going to be calling you.
So I'm going to get a bunch of angry 12-year-olds calling me.
Yeah, that was one of the things I saw on TikTok one time, and they said they were in a game chat, before they went into the game, and somebody said, "What's the worst thing you've ever heard in a game chat?" And he said, I heard some guy said, "Call Child Protective Services because I'm about to fuck these kids." I said, "Oh my God."
Oh, dude. I had my own sons in there. I had my sons taking the damn headset away from me one time because I was going off in Call of Duty. And they're, Dad, give me the headset.
Yeah, man, Superman played about every day. He got banned. They cut his comms. He called some guy a stupid cheating fag or something like that. And he said, "I don't know why they would have cut my shit off." And
I didn't say I don't know why. I didn't say
called
that.
him a fag. He said, "Yeah, but I spelled it PH."
Yeah. I spelled it PHAGG.
Yeah, so it shouldn't count because I spelled it PHAGG. I didn't spell it right.
Right? I mean, I made it PG.
Yeah.
Fuck that fat fuck.
Fuck that motherfucker.
No, it's funny. One time I was playing Call of Duty a few years back, and my middle daughter, she had opened the door, and I'm sitting there. Somebody was talking shit to me, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, butt plug. And I just keep like. And so the next
Dad,
time my daughter's friend
plug?
was. No, it wasn't my daughter that said it. It was my daughter's friend who heard it, and she goes, "I don't know what you were talking about last time. Something about butt stuff." And I was like, "Oh God."
Well,
It was not a good look.
Butt
It
stuff
was-
makes sense too with you. That's what we used to call him, Superman.
hate on the ass
Old
plate.
Superman butt stuff Dale.
Now wait a second. See, now
the
you forced
doc
my
in him.
hand, John.
He's always trying to give that proctology exam, huh?
I got an ode to old Dave Roberts.
Hey, now
Dave Roberts.
let's just all right, guys. We'll have a good one. We'll start right there next time. There's no need to go any further. So
I think John Looney finally lost a game
Yeah.
of gay chicken.
So I am notorious for winning gay chicken. Like I will jerk you off to prove I'm not gay. I will not back down. But so Dave Roberts, I think y'all where were we at, a team room or something?
Up in the talk on the
Yeah.
second story.
Yeah, up on the top. And Dave says something, I don't remember now, but I pull my pants down and stick my asshole right up in his face. I mean, the old rusty sheriff's badge has just come out for a visit. And he's holding a banana when I do that. And he literally takes this banana and touches it to my asshole. Not cheek to the left or right. He doesn't graze around it. Now, there was no actual penetration, despite what Superman might claim. I'm going to state that clearly. There was no penetration. But there was a slight little kiss.
He got a wink out of you.
So that was the one time that, buddy, I lost gay chicken. He won.
I shit you not. I'm in the talk.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, the doors. No, you were outside the talk in the hallway. So I'm in the talk, but the door's propped open, and I'm trying to submit my AAR for our mission, and all I hear is, "Hey, motherfucker!" And I'm like, "What?" And John says, Dave just violated me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on out there? John tells his story, and the way Dave says, he goes, hey, look, all I did was I just stuck the banana and I turned away like, oh no.
No, I think what he did is he give it a little kiss, maybe spit on it, rub the thumb over it. I think
Dude,
if Dave Roberts is watching, man, fuck you. That was wrong.
Oh my God.
You remember Tom Gordon when he left?
Oh yeah.
He left his hooch unlocked and he left his computer on and Facebook was on. And we started blasting all those Facebook messages to all his friends about him wanting to suck their dicks and shit.
I got the
Dude,
best
he had to
one
shut
for
his
you.
account down. It was horrible, man. Everybody hated him. I forget who
We
did
had
that
this.
now.
We had this guy up in Mosul
Right.
that we set up this a fake account of a girl and hit him up on Yahoo Messenger. And so they're going all back and forth. And so we're like, you know, she's in the States right now, and we're sending pictures that we're getting off of the internet to him. And this is dragging on for probably days. And, you know, we had said that she was going to be working for KBR and going to be coming up to Mosul. Do you know where that is? And he's like, that's where I am. And
shit.
So this drags on. And like, so she's like, I'm supposed to be flying into the MAF. And so then he'd give up OPSEC. He's like, we're coming there on such and such date. And we had him going for weeks. Thank God he's only giving it to us. And it was just hilarious. This is what we do in the evenings. We'd sit around and drink and fuck with this guy while he's like 3 hooches down. So and then it was he came to me and asked to borrow a webcam one night because we had them all set up where they were going to have sexy time together. And so I let him borrow my webcam, and I told the rest of the guys, I was like, I am out on that one.
Dude, y'all should have turned it on and been on the other end of it.
Oh, I think that there was, but I did not want to partake in that portion of it.
I saw this.
Yeah, Scrappy or Stalker could probably tell you the rest of that one.
I saw this comedian the other day. He said that he would create, I think it was Theo Vaughn, said he would create group chats with just random numbers. He would just type in 10 random numbers, whatever, you know, just area code, make up numbers and create a group chat. And then he would take some fucking random photo of like some little fat Asian kid holding a trophy. And he would send it out to everybody on that list and say, oh my God, look, Steven got first place. Like that. And he said, all these random fucking people would be all there like, oh, thank goodness, I've been praying for you guys and all this shit. And then there'd inevitably like one motherfucker like, who in the fuck is this? And why the fuck shit is so goddamn funny.
Oh man.
Yeah. Pedro, so we would have our afternoon meetings, right? You do your mission planning and all that. You got your afternoon team meeting, right, for the mission the next morning.
Right.
Pedro would walk up when you weren't paying attention. That motherfucker would put his dick in your pocket, dude. He would. He'd walk up to you, and all you I kid you not, dude. He'd walk up, dude, and he'd be leaned up on you. And you're like, Pedro, what are you doing, dude? And he'd sit there and look at you with a smile on his face. Pedro, what the fuck, dude? And he'd kind of point down. You'd look down, and that motherfucker would have his dick in your pocket, dude.
Hey,
like, what the fuck?
What was that Brit? What was that Brit we had down in Kandahar?
Oh,
he would take
Dave Cuthbertson.
That is it, Dave Cuthbertson. He would take it, pull his shit out. He'd hold it all bunched up in his hands. And he'd say, look, mate, I've got a baby bird. And you don't know what he's got because he's got his hands and there's something in there. And you're like, what the fuck is that? He's like, it's a baby bird. You're like, it's what? Because you can't understand half of what he's fucking saying anyway. It's a baby bird. And you're looking at it and you're like, that's not a fucking bird. What is that?
Oh, son of a bitch.
Balls all crunched up. And then you're like, you motherfucker. And he starts laughing his ass off, you know. But like, I'm literally like, what is that? That's not a bird.
Did any of you guys
No,
know?
get closer. No, you got to get closer. You got to look at it closer.
I
Did
told the
any of you
story
guys
the
know
other
Mike
day to a guy
McGinnis?
on the
I've heard the name.
Mac?
who?
Yeah, Mike
Mac?
McGinnis.
Yeah,
Mac.
Mac.
He was a SEAL type, good dude, passed away. But I have so many pictures because he was just one of those clothing optional guys. So I'd be showing people like pictures in Iraq and they'd be like, "Is that a dick?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's just Mac. Just fucking dicks everywhere." You know, I'm like, "Yeah, just ignore it. It's so common."
Hey, were any of you still in Baghdad when Tommy Lopez got his balls hung on the top bunk?
Ouch! How?
Y'all didn't hear? Okay, so QRF, right? Get a call out. QRF call out goes, "You jump, you fucking haul ass," right? So he's on the top bunk, and the call out goes, right? So he fucking starts to slide belly down. You know how you slide off the bunk or whatever? He's sliding down. Well, he's going full weight to try to get down there, and one of his nuts got caught in a spring, dude. Like it got caught. You know how the springs were built into the bed?
Yeah.
So his nut got caught in the spring. So he's sitting there hanging. I shit you not. And Tommy wasn't very tall. The dude was like 5'2", 5'3", right? So he would sit there and he's like hanging and he's screaming, right? We're running, and all we hear is this screaming. We're like, "What the fuck's going on? It sounds like somebody's dying," right? Go in the room, dude. Yeah, bro. He was hanging from his balls, dude. One nut, dude. It was like that, dude. It swelled up like that big, dude. And he had everybody sign it, dude. Yeah.
Oh, man.
True story, dude. True story.
We had
What DBA give him for that?
did I tell you the story about did I tell you the story about taking pictures of that cat when Mike put his nuts on his chin?
Oh, I think you did tell me about that. Are you talking about Mike
We were all in
Brown?
the team room, man. Can't remember who it was now. Anyway, we're all in the team room and we're all pounding booze, man. This cat goes down. So about 4 or 5 of us, we grab him, take him to his hooch. Now we were in wet shoes, so our bunks were, elevated off the floor, so you get your foot lockers and everything under. So we get him up in his hooch and toss him up in the rack. Old Mike says, "Here, take my phone." Okay, get the phone. He drops his fucking britches, gets up on there, and he pulls his cock up and sits on the guy's forehead. So he's got a nut sack like hanging. So the picture is looking up to his body, right? Looking up his body at this view with a ball on each side, asshole right here. Right? And right above that is Mike holding his cock, giving the thumbs up. You know what I mean? So the next morning we're in the chow hall. We're all in there. Comes in, man. Rough night last night. Like, yeah, no shit. Look at this. Pull that picture out, man. I thought he was gonna kill everybody in the fucking room, bro. He got bed. He lost his sense of humor real quick. I don't know who it was now. I don't care either because he's scarred for life, and I'm happy. I'm laughing about it.
I'm convinced our trust issues are not as much about
bastards.
I'm convinced that our trust issues are not about PTSD, but about how we treated each other.
No, I'm not going to sleep. You motherfuckers ain't put your balls in my eyes.
My
But I
buddy
ain't getting
T-Bone
drunk no
woke up
more.
in the middle of the night to me trying to sit there and teabag him, and I was so drunk when he woke up. He's like, "Booger, what are you doing?" I was like, "Shh, go back to sleep." And I'm just sitting there giggling the whole time. He pushed me off.
Dude, we had you remember I was telling that story the other day. You remember that cat that I don't remember. We were doing so we had our own air assets. And Dale knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We had a couple of guys on AVO. So whenever we would put up a mission and we would do AVO, we'd get out to the rotary. They would do a brief for the helicopter. Here's the front, here's the back. If we go down, blah, blah, blah. they didn't run the missions with us. They weren't privy to our briefings. They just basically gave a safety brief, that kind of thing. So we're on the airfield. I don't remember if you were there or not, but we're on the airfield. We're all rigged up. Look like we just stepped out of fucking video games, you know. And so this new engineer comes in. Well, I forget where we were going. We were going to that place where you fell into that fucking
Panjway?
shit that time.
Yeah, Panjway.
Yeah, that was it. We were going to Panjway. And he comes up, man, and he sets his fucking bag down at my feet. And I looked at him. I said, "What's this?" And he said, "That's my bag. Carry it on
Cool.
the helicopter for me." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm not a fucking bellhop. You pick it up." He said, "You can't talk to me like that." I said, "Look, motherfucker, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to keep you alive. So shut your fucking mouth, pick up the bag, and get on the goddamn helicopter." He gets
The
on
security
the
guy was mean.
He gets on the fucking helo. He's pissed. He's fucking red ass like a motherfucker. We get back to the damn barracks. I'm in the hooch, and I don't know who it was now. Come hit the door. "Roger. Hey, Colonel wants to see you." Fuck.
I think that was Gordo that was the TL at the time for
Yeah,
you.
I think it might have been. I love Gordo, man. I love that motherfucker like nobody.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I go up to Colonel, and it was what was the one, the big bull, big night court bull looking guy, bald head.
Yeah, the ball. Yeah, I actually have him still
His
on
name, man, he
Facebook.
was the coolest cat, dude.
He was a cool
Cat
cat.
never veered out of his lane, man. We'd run a mission. We'd get on the ground. You'd say, "Sir," pause right there. "Roger." And he'd say, like, "Looney, can we go over there?" I'd say, "No, sir, we're not allowed over there. We didn't put it on our brief. You know what I mean? We got to stay on point." Whatever. He's like, "Okay." I mean, he knew his role. You know what I mean? He didn't try to veer into our lane. He was just the greatest guy, man. I loved him.
He was a bit. He supported us the most of all of them.
Any one of them. He's the best CO we ever had.
There's a difference between a bad client, a good client, and a cool client, you know?
So, but so I go up in his office, knock on the door. I say, "You want to see me, sir?" He said, "Shut the door." I go in. He said, "Hey, this guy come up here. Here's what he said." I was like, "Look," so he ain't lying. Here's what happened. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I told him that." He said, "That's just Looney, man. We all had to get used to it. You better get used to it too."
That is no bullshit too. I remember that.
That's just fucking Looney. You'll get used to him.
Yeah. So
I was with you that first time we fucking rolled in an SLT vehicle, and you turned over and looked at the client, and they're like, "Hey, this is your brief real quick," and they're like, "Okay, hey, what military branch were you in?" And you're like, "Military? I just got the fuck out of prison. What are you talking about, military?"
I guess I just got out of prison for rape or something like that.
Something like that. And that motherfucker his eyes went wide. I could see him in the mirror. I just shook
I
my
was
head.
known for saying the most off the cuff, wildest shit to whomever, wherever.
And that was my intro to you. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Chuck. What was Black Chuck's name? Dadgummit,
Calfee.
Chuck Calfee. God, I love Chuck Calfee.
Yeah,
Chuck Calfee used to say, "Bro, nobody can handle one full dose of Looney all at once. You got to give it to them in small doses and let them build up to it, bro." He said, "You're scaring too many people. Like, you got to give it to them in small doses. They can't handle the full thing."
I mean,
All right, fellas.
you weren't wrong.
Yeah.
No, but he was uniquely loony.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean was? The motherfucker still ain't got no goddamn common sense.
I've been cultured since.
His culture develops organically.
Yeah.
It's all organic.
Yeah. It's all about the right proportion of caffeine and hate.
Yeah.
Gotta get it in one more time.
Yeah. Organic.
Yeah, that's no shit.
Don't say it
All
three
right,
times.
fellas, I'm gonna get off here.
I'll see you
Sounds
guys.
good, man.
All right.
All
Good
right.
thing with you guys.
Chat
All right.
next week.
Talk to you.